Excuse me. Sir? We're officers of the law.
You gonna run me in? I don't feel like talking. I'm distraught.
Hey, Benny, you want to ask this guy some questions?
All right, what is this? What's this arrangement?
Mr. Drysdale.
CSI KFC?
Hey there, I'm Mark, and welcome back to RT Essentials. Time to break out the deerstalker hat and dust off the old magnifying glass, because today we're discussing the finest whodunit films. And it doesn't take Sherlock to uncover the reasons why this genre has long been cherished and only seems to be rising in popularity. These titles speak for themselves. Now, you might be wondering, what makes a film a whodunit and not just a regular old mystery? And the answer is simple. Anything inexplicable can fall into the category of mystery, and though whodunits are technically mysteries, they tend to focus on a specific crime with the culprit revealed much later in the film. Everybody got that? So in a sense, we all get together and solve the puzzle. And really, what's more fun than that? These are the best whodunit movies. Gosford Park.
Ah, yes, the Countess of Trentham. Yes, I served with your husband.
My brother-in-law, Lord Stockbridge. Lady Stockbridge. Jennings, please, would you remove that vile animal? Mrs. Nesbit. Mr. Nesbit. Ivor Novello, but I'm sure needs no introduction.
Well, of course, Mr. Novello.
No, wait. Would you like to speak to the servants tonight, Inspector?
Inspector Tom...
I think he ought to speak to Pro at my husband's valet. Would you tell him to come up?
Sure.
Now, where was I?
Up first is 2001's Gosford Park, directed by Robert Altman and written by Julian Fellowes. Set in 1930s England, a wealthy family invites a group of rich and famous guests to their country estate, Gosford Park, for a weekend of relaxation and hunting. When a mysterious murder occurs, each one of these eccentric characters becomes a suspect, and like most whodunits, it's often the person we'd least expect. Though the guests above stairs have plenty of possible motives to commit such a crime, we mustn't forget about the staff below stairs, like the butler Mr. Jennings, or the head housekeeper Mrs. Wilson. Also, the victim was poisoned, so you gotta be suspicious of Mrs. Croft, the cook.
Mr. Weissman,
Yes.
tell us about the film you're going to make.
Oh, sure. It's called Charlie Chan in London. It's a detective story.
Set in London.
Well, not really. Most of it takes place at a shooting party in a country house, sort of like this one, actually. Murder in the middle of the night, a lot of guests for the weekend, everyone's a suspect, that sort of thing.
How horrid.
Let's recap. We have an opulent English estate with a cool name, a wealthy family, their staff, and various guests with interconnecting drama. Does this scenario sound familiar at all? It will if you're a fan of the drama series Downton Abbey, which was created by Julian Fellowes, who, as I mentioned earlier, wrote the script for this film. Though Downton Abbey is set earlier in the 20th century, it was originally intended to be a spin-off of Gosford Park, but ultimately ended up being a standalone series. For his work on this film, Fellowes won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, and additionally, Gosford Park received Oscar nominations for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Supporting Actress. Murder on the Orient Express.
10,000? 15,000.
Mr. Rodger, I have made enough money to satisfy both my needs and my caprices. I take only such cases now as interest me, and to be frank, my interest in your case is, dwindling.
Murder on the Orient Express is a 1974 film directed by Sidney Lumet and based on the Agatha Christie novel of the same name. Seems like a good time to tip our hats to Agatha Christie, the queen of crime, who penned 66 mystery novels and 14 short story collections during her career, and was largely responsible for the rise in popularity of whodunit novels during the 1920s and the 1930s, also known as the golden age of detective fiction. This film follows Belgian detective Hercule Poirot, who, having recently concluded a case, heads home aboard the Orient Express train, what he had hoped would be a relaxing journey. Of course, things go off the rails pretty quickly when an unpopular billionaire is murdered on the route. Poirot takes on the case and realizes that several passengers on the train have revenge as a motive.
And the ultimate suicide of Colonel Armstrong in the face of multiple and intolerable bereavement. I would have understood his action if, in addition to the DSO-MC, he had been awarded the VC, which stands, as you may know, for Victoria Cross and is awarded for valor.
Then, in my opinion, Ratchet deserved what he got.
Agatha Christie attended the film's premiere in November of 1974, 84 years young at the time, and this was apparently the only movie adaptation of her work that she felt satisfied with during her lifetime, noting that Albert Finney's performance of her character Poirot was sufficient, except for one major mistake. In the novel, Poirot is known for having the finest mustache in England, and Finney's mustache just didn't cut it. Too bad they couldn't have fixed it with CGI. You know, like that mustache gate from Superman. Maybe it's better that they didn't tinker with it. Clue.
She's not here. I didn't do it!
It's not just a game anymore, was the tagline from the 1985 black comedy Clue, written and directed by Jonathan Lynn. Fans of the board game were thrilled to see their favorite characters brought to life on the silver screen, like Mrs. Peacock, Miss Scarlet, Professor Plum, and of course, Colonel Mustard. Just like the game, the movie's objective was to figure out who murdered the dinner host, Mr. Body, where the crime took place, and which weapon was used. The 6 strangers in the film, all given pseudonyms, arrive by invitation to an ominous New England mansion where they learn that Mr. Body is threatening to blackmail them and expose their darkest secrets.
Not 6.
1 + 2 + 2 + 1.
There was only one shot that got the chandelier. That's 1 + 2 + 1 + 1.
Even if you were right, that would be 1 + 1 + 2 + 1, not 1 + 2 + 1 + 1.
Okay, fine. 1 + 2 + 1. Shut up! The point is, there's 1 bullet left in this gun, and guess who's gonna get it?
Body then gives each guest a weapon, a candlestick, a knife, a lead pipe, a revolver, a rope, and a wrench, and suggests that someone kills Wadsworth the butler, pointing out that Wadsworth has the key to the front door and that his death will ensure that no one but the 7 of them will ever know of their secrets. When Mr. Body turns out the lights, a gunshot is heard, and when the lights are turned back on, Mr. Body is dead. It's a dead body. Get it? Clue was considered groundbreaking at the time for featuring 3 different endings. Each theater would receive and play one of those 3 endings, a marketing tactic which kind of backfired because Clue ended up being a box office failure. But hey, the film later developed a massive cult following, and let's not forget, this was the first movie ever based on a board game, and as a guy who rewatched it last week, it's still great. Knives Out.
I spoke in the car about the hole at the center of this donut. And what you and Harlan did that fateful night seems at first glance to fill that hole perfectly. A donut hole in a donut's hole. But we must look a little closer. And when we do, we see the donut hole has a hole in its center. It is not a donut hole, but a smaller donut with its own hole. And our donut is not a hole at all.
Knives Out was written and directed by Rian Johnson, who rose to prominence following the success of his films Looper and that little space opera you might have heard of called Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which grossed over $1 billion. Johnson was already a force to be reckoned with, but he somehow managed to outdo himself with this one, and it was no accident, as he conceptualized Knives Out way back in 2005, 14 years before its release in 2019. The film features an all-star cast, which includes Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Toni Collette, and it centers around the mysterious circumstances surrounding the death of crime novelist Harlan Thrombey. The brilliant detective Benoit Blanc, played by Craig, must sift through a web of lies and red herrings to uncover the truth and deal with the wildly dysfunctional Thrombey family in the process.
We are the Thrombeys, God. This is still our house.
Oh, sorry. Likewise, the house at 2 Dearborn Drive and all belongings therein I leave to Marta Cabrera.
Oh, you little. You little. Did you know about this? Were you in on this from the beginning? No, I just want to know. What were you? What were you doing? Were you boinking my father?
Though Knives Out deliberately touches on classic whodunit tropes, and there are definite similarities between Detective Blanc and Poirot, aka the mustache guy, this film stands out for being contemporary and presenting relatable conflicts as opposed to the period pieces that dominate this particular genre. The decision was partially inspired by the work of, you guessed it, Agatha Christie, who in her time was writing to contemporary British society. According to Johnson, the notion of taking this genre and plugging it into contemporary American society seemed like it could maybe yield some fresh things. And right he was. Knives Out was unanimously praised by critics and earned a BAFTA and Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay. It was also a box office success and was named after a badass Radiohead song, so really, what more do you need? LA Confidential.
That's right. Our motives are selfish. So we're cooperating.
So cooperate, Miss Bracken. Why was Susan Lefferts at the Night Owl?
I don't know. I never heard of the Night Owl till today.
How did she meet Patchett?
Pierce meets people. Sue came on a bus with dreams of Hollywood, and this is how they turned out. Thanks to Pierce, we still get to act a little.
LA Confidential is a 1997 neo-noir crime drama directed, produced, and co-written by Curtis Hanson and based on the novel of the same name. It's the story of three policemen, each with their own motives and obsessions, who set out to tackle the corruption surrounding an unsolved robbery and multiple homicides at a downtown Los Angeles coffee shop in the early 1950s. Once again, this whodunit boasts a superb cast, which includes Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, and Kim Basinger. As the film was being developed, Crowe and Pearce were relatively unknown in America, and the producers were worried about the lack of stars in the leading roles. Remember, this was pre-Gladiator, the film that would launch Crowe into superstardom. Thankfully, Hanson stuck to his guns, and now it's hard to imagine anyone else in these roles. When it came to the source material, Hanson had taken an interest in James Ellroy's novel, not because of the plot, but because of the characters. According to Hanson, what hooked him on the characters was that as he met them, one after another, he didn't like them, but as he continued reading, he started to care about them.
How's it gonna look in your report?
It'll look like justice. That's what the man got. Justice.
You don't know the meaning of the word, you ignorant.
Yeah? Well, you think it means getting your picture in the paper. Why don't you go after criminals for a change instead of cops?
Stensland got what he deserved, and so will you.
So with that in mind, Hanson teamed up with screenwriter Brian Helgeland, and the two wrote a screenplay in which the characters came first and the plot was lightly taken from Ellroy's novel. LA Confidential was a critical and commercial success, earning 9 Oscar nominations and winning for Best Supporting Actress, Basinger, and Best Adapted Screenplay. Yes, Russell Crowe, thank you, we were in fact entertained. The Usual Suspects.
First thing on the job, you know what I learned? How to spot a murderer. Let's say you arrest 3 guys for the same killing. You put them all in jail overnight. The next morning, whoever's sleeping is your man. You see, if you're guilty, you know you're caught. You get some rest. You let your guard down. You follow me?
No.
Let me get right to the point. I'm smarter than you. And I'm gonna find out what I want to know. And I'm gonna get it from you whether you like it or not.
I'm not a rat.
Next up, it's The Usual Suspects, a gritty crime thriller directed by Bryan Singer and written by Christopher McQuarrie. The film follows 5 low-key criminals who had unknowingly wronged one of the most enigmatic crime lords of all time, Kaiser Soze. In order to make amends for their wrongdoings, the 5 criminals were ordered to raid a ship and destroy $91 million worth of cocaine being sold on board. Things go horribly wrong when an explosion destroys the boat and 27 people end up dead. These events unfold in flashbacks as the criminals are interrogated by a tough customs agent named Dave Coogan, played by Chaz Palminteri. Of all the whodunits on this list, The Usual Suspects might have the biggest twist, one that will leave even the most adept movie detectives with their jaws hitting the floor.
Do you believe in him, Verbal?
Keaton always said, I don't believe in God, but I'm afraid of him. Well, I believe in God. And the only thing that scares me is Kaiser Soze.
But as shocking as the twist is, the clues are hidden in plain sight all along. You should apologize to your TV in advance for the yelling you'll undoubtedly be directing towards it. Mostly out of embarrassment that you, like me, and all of us watching it for the first time, got duped. That's all I'm gonna say about it, no spoilers given away here. The first visual idea Singer had for the film was 5 guys who meet in a lineup. This got him thinking, what would possibly bring these 5 felons together? McQuarrie had been working on a script about a murderer who disappears, which he revamped to incorporate Singer's vision of a team of criminals, and boom, The Usual Suspects was born. The film won 2 Oscars, was a critical and commercial success, and is considered one of the greatest mysteries of all time. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Get him out of there, or seal him up in it. Lose the lights, and say lunch. Oh! That's lunch run ahead.
Please, Raoul, I can give you stars. Just drop the refrigerator in my head one more time.
Roger, I got it on your head 23 times already.
I can take it. Don't worry about me.
I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the refrigerator.
I can give you stars. Look. Look. Look.
Blending live action with animation, Who Framed Roger Rabbit stars Bob Hoskins as Eddie Valiant, a down-on-his-luck private eye who gets hired by cartoon producer R.K. Maroon to investigate an adultery scandal involving Jessica Rabbit, the wife of Roger Rabbit. But things take a turn when the owner of Toontown is found murdered, and now Valiant must help exonerate Roger Rabbit, who's been framed for the crime. The film was directed by Robert Zemeckis and is loosely adapted from the 1981 Gary K. Wolfe novel Who Censored Roger Rabbit? Walt Disney Productions purchased the film rights to the novel shortly after it was published, and a few years later, Disney approached Steven Spielberg's production company, Amblin Entertainment, to co-produce, giving them an extensive amount of creative control. Spielberg originally wanted Harrison Ford for the role of Eddie Valiant, but Ford was too pricey, and Eddie Murphy turned down the role because he didn't really understand the concept of humans coexisting with cartoons, a decision that he later regretted.
Several months ago, I had the good providence to stumble upon this plan of the city councils, a construction plan of epic proportions. We are calling it a freeway.
Freeway? What the freeway?
8 lanes of shimmering cement running from here to Pasadena. Smooth, safe, fast. Traffic jams will be a thing of the past.
So that's why you killed Acme Maroon? For this freeway?
Additionally, Robin Williams, Jack Nicholson, and Sly Stallone were all considered, but Spielberg ultimately chose Hoskins, noting that he had a hopeful demeanor and looked like he belonged in that 1940s era. To achieve such an eye-popping spectacle, 326 animators worked full-time during production, and animation director Richard Williams estimated that over 1 million drawings had to be done for the film. Though Disney was initially concerned about the rising budget, which exceeded $50 million, Who Framed Roger Rabbit proved to be worthy of the undertaking. The film grossed over $350 million, won 3 Oscars, and was called a breakthrough in craftsmanship by Roger, not Rabbit, Ebert. 7.
Detective.
After this, I'm gone.
Detective.
No big surprise.
Detective!
You're looking for me.
Hey! What's your move? Keep away from him! On the floor!
I know you.
Now! Get out! Get down! On your stomach!
David Fincher's Seven is widely considered to be one of the greatest serial killer movies of all time. The plot follows retiring police detective William Somerset, who tackles his final case with the aid of the newly transferred detective David Mills. After they discover a number of elaborate and grisly murders, they realize they're dealing with a sophisticated killer who is targeting people he thinks represent one of the 7 deadly sins. Much like The Usual Suspects, this film comes with a surprise ending, the bad kind of surprise, like actually the worst kind of surprise imaginable. Again, I'm not here to spoil the party, but trust me when I say you do not want to know what's in the box. Screenwriter Andrew Walker was influenced by his time spent in New York, and he was convinced that the script for Seven was far too dark to ever sell. He was kind of right, because New Line Cinema wanted to make the film, but rejected Walker's original What's in the Box ending, and they had Walker write an alternate, more traditional ending. Unfortunately for New Line, they accidentally sent Fincher the old draft, and Fincher was set on keeping Walker's original ending.
I
saw you with the box. What was in the box?
Because I envy your normal life.
Put the gun down, baby.
It seems that envy is my sin.
No, what's in the box?
Not till you give me the
What's
gun.
in the box?
Give me the gun.
He just told you.
You lie! You're a f***ing liar! Shut up!
That's what he wants. He wants you to shoot him.
No! No! You tell me that's not true. That's not true.
Become vengeance, David.
That wasn't all. Brad Pitt also refused to make the movie if the ending was changed, going as far as putting that condition in his contract. Okay, I blabbed enough about the ending of Seven, but I suggest you watch the movie to fill in the rest of these gory details. Chinatown.
There's a waterlogged drunk in the morgue. Involuntary manslaughter if anybody wants to take the trouble, which they don't. It seems like half the city is trying to cover it all up, which is fine by me. But Mrs. Mulray, I got lost my nose, and I like it. I like breathing through it. And I still think that you're hiding something.
Next up is Chinatown, a 1974 neo-noir thriller written by Robert Towne. Set in 1937, Jack Nicholson stars as Private Eye Jake Gibbs, who is hired by Evelyn Mulray to investigate her husband's activities in what he believes is a routine infidelity case. Jake's investigation soon becomes anything but routine when he meets the real Mrs. Mulray, played by Faye Dunaway, and realizes he was hired by an imposter. When Mr. Mulray's body is found in a reservoir, Gitz ends up on a tangled trail of corruption, deceit, and sinister family secrets. Robert Towne's script was inspired by the California Water Wars, which were a series of political conflicts that erupted in the early 20th century between the city of Los Angeles and farmers in Eastern California.
I don't blame myself See, Mr. Gitz, most people never have to face the fact that the right time and the right place, they're capable of anything. Claude, take those glasses from me, will you? Not worth it, Mr. Gitz. It's really not worth it.
Town wrote the script and its main protagonist with Nicholson in mind, and Nicholson was on board even before a director was attached. The script was that good, as a matter of fact. It's considered to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, scripts ever written, and won Town the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay at the 47th Academy Awards. Chinatown is like a masterclass on how to make a whodunit, and its influence can be seen in subsequent films like Devil in a Blue Dress, Drive, and of course LA Confidential, and I'll toss Who Framed Roger Rabbit in there as well. Memento.
You don't know who you are.
I'm Leonard Shelby. I'm from San Francisco.
That's who you were. That's not what you become.
Shut your mouth.
You want to know, Lenny? Come on. Come on, let's go down to the basement. Let's go down, you and me together. Then you'll know who you really are.
Last but certainly not least is Memento, written and directed by Christopher Nolan and produced by Suzanne and Jennifer Todd. Guy Pearce plays Leonard Shelby, who is tracking down the people who attacked and murdered his wife. This proves to be difficult because Leonard suffers from a rare, untreatable form of memory loss known as anterograde amnesia. Although he can recall details of his life before his accident, Leonard cannot remember what happened 15 minutes ago or where he's going and why he got there. What sets Memento apart from most whodunits is the non-linear narrative structure presented as two sequences, one in black and white and one in color.
So next time you see me, will you remember me?
The black and white sequences move forward chronologically, and the color sequences move in reverse order. This gives the audience an opportunity to empathize with Leonard and experience the events as he does. I know it sounds confusing, but let's not forget, this is the guy who made Inception and the guy who made Tenet, two of the most complicated movies ever, so after you see those, this is a piece of cake, and it's Nolan's brand, damn it. Memento was a box office success, earned 2 Oscar nominations, and was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. Additionally, critics praised the performances of Pearce, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Joe Pantoliano. But let's be real, it was the Polaroid camera that stole the show, right? And that concludes our list of the best whodunit movies. As always, we didn't have time to cover every noteworthy selection that belongs in this category, but fear not, we got plenty of episodes of RT Essentials coming your way, so I'm sure we'll crack that case eventually. Thanks for watching, I'm Mark Ellis, and when it comes time to solve your next whodunit, remember what Agatha Christie once said, very few of us are what we seem.